I'm back in the sewing room today, and I'm going to show you how to make a quarter square triangle block. It's a great little block, especially to make star blocks. And because I'm using just two colors, it's usually referred to as an hourglass block. So let's get started, and I'll show you how to make it. The technique I'm showing you today will make two 4.5 inch unfinished blocks. And what that means is when the block is completed today, it'll measure 4.5 inches, and when it's sewn into the quilt, it'll measure 4 inches. To do that, you'll need to start with one light colored fabric and one dark colored fabric, each one cut at 5.5 inches square. You can make your block any size that you like. All you have to do is determine which size you want your block to be unfinished at, and cut your squares, your light and your dark squares, 1 inch larger. First step to make your quarter square triangles is to actually make two half square triangles. So to do that, and I also have a video on the half square triangles, and I'll link to that here. Basically, you'll take your lighter colored fabric, wrong side, and you draw a line from one corner to the other. So I'll just use my ruler. And I like to place my ruler just a hair to the left of my corner. And I'll use my mechanical pencil. It's got a really nice pointy tip. And I'll repeat that on the other light colored block. Now place your light colored fabric with your line drawn on the dark colored fabric, right side up, so it'll be right sides together. Line up your two squares. Again, these are your 5.5 inch squares. And if you like, you can go ahead and pin. And next I'll be sewing a 1/4 inch on each side of this line. And I have my 1/4 inch presser foot attached, and I'm just using a little leader fabric so my bobbin thread doesn't bunch up on the back of the block. Cut it off. I'll snip off my leader fabric. And I'll sew the other side. Now I'll position my ruler on my pencil line and cut the block into two pieces. And here I have my two half square triangles, and I will take them over to the iron and give them a press. And I'll press toward the dark, so I have my dark fabric on top. Give it a press to set the stitches. Open it up. And I'll use a teeny bit of spray starch because I want it to be very, very flat. And I'll repeat that with the other block. Now I need to trim my half square triangles to 5 inches square at this point. I'm using this ruler from Quilt in a Day. It's a square ruler specifically made for squaring up quilt blocks. And what you want to do, here's my 5 inch mark. And this diagonal line right here, you want to line up on your quilt block. And at this point on your first cut, I'm going to do a cut here and a cut here, is you just want to make sure this line is lined up and your fabric extends on all four sides just beyond your 5-inch mark. And you want the diagonal line to be right on your corner as well. And that looks pretty good. I'll do my first two cuts here and here. Now I'll flip the block around. And at this point, I'll line up exactly on the 5-inch mark here and here. Line up my diagonal again. Make sure the diagonal is extending right at my corner. And I'll do my last two cuts here and here. Take one of your half square triangles, flip it to the wrong side. We're going to draw a line from one corner to the other. Again, just like before, match up the points. The only additional thing is you really want to make sure that you have a straight line on this stitching line right here. Line it up. That looks pretty good. And draw my line, check my corner. Now place your half square triangle units right sides together with your line facing you on top. And you have your light to your dark and your dark to your light. And we're going to pin it together, making sure to match up the corners and the seam. I'll flip that around. And because we press to the dark both times on the units, our seam allowances go in an opposite direction. And I do like to peek into the center of the block and make sure that these two seams are lined up in the center as well. And you can put a pin there if you like. I'm going to go without a pin because I think it's going to be just fine. I'll take it to the machine. Again, so 1/4 inch on each side of my pencil line. Now before I cut the block, I just always like to check and make sure my seams lined up and they look just perfect. Now I'll cut on my pencil line, just like before for the half square triangle. I'll take it to the iron and give it a press. And I like to add a little extra step when I'm pressing these blocks with the intersection in the middle like so. I'll just use my seam ripper and I'll take out the final 2 stitches that are on top, and just be careful to not go into your other stitches. We don't want the block to come apart. That should do it. There we go. And then that enables me to press, I'll just use my finger there to press it down. And this is kind of, I think some people call it swirling the seam. So you'll just notice that this seam allowance will go in one direction, this will go the other. And it creates this cute little four patch here. I can get it properly laid down. There we go. And it just really makes the block a little bit flatter. Now I'll take it over to the cutting area and we'll trim it up. Now I'm squaring the block up to 4.5 inches square. It's really similar to squaring up the half square triangle that we did. The only additional thing is I've put a piece of painter's tape on my ruler at the 2.25 inch mark, and that will go right here at this intersection. It's just a little extra point of reference for your cutting. So again, make sure that there's a little bit of fabric right beyond the 4.5 inch line on all four sides. In addition, make sure that your tape is right in the middle of your block. So that looks really good. Again, I'll cut one cut here and one cut here. And just before I cut, I wanted to mention that I did line up this diagonal line again, just like with the half square triangle. Now, just like before, I'll flip the block around. This time I'll line up my 4.5 inch mark exactly on these two sides. Line up my diagonal line and then my final point of reference, the center, with my tape. That looks pretty good. I'll do my final two cuts, 1 and 2. Here's a block I made using 4 of the Hourglass units along with 5 4.5 inch blocks. It's called the Ohio Star block, and I will do a video on this as well later. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.